Hey guys, for this video I'm going to be doing a book review, and it's a book review of a book that's connected to a movie I watched. It is Killer and Drag. If you don't realize the title from my video of Glen and Glenda, this is supposed to be the connection, or I won't even say continuation. I'm not sure if it was supposed to be a continuation of Glen and Glenda. But it says it was written by Ed Wood, but according to the wiki page, he had no connection to it. And after reading it, I don't believe he had any fucking, connection, any input. They just used his name for the book, which is unfortunate. Because it's not the best representation, I guess, when it comes to transvestism or, transgenderism. Just to start off, I'm not really too worried about spoilers, just because I don't know who the fuck is gonna go try to find this book, because it's like 70 years old, and I had to go to like another library system just to get the physical book, so I'm not going to be too worried about spoilers. So to get into like the plot of the book. So this follows this man who he works for this crime syndicate. Because I'm assuming it's a crime syndicate because it's called the Syndicate, and he actually does kill people for them. He does it as Glenda. So this crime syndicate uses transvestites because at the very last page, they get another transvestite. They hire another one to go after Glenda, essentially. Anyways, going back. He works for this crime syndicate, and it's implied that, at least to me, that he wants to have a sex change. I think he's working for this crime syndicate so that he can get enough money to have this sex change. I don't know if I was just going crazy, because it only mentions it at one page, the fact he wants to transition. Anyways, yeah, and so he murders in the book for this syndicate, but there's another murder that happens that was completely unrelated, that he did not do. He dresses up as Glenda, and he goes to this rich man's house, who is also transvestite, and, was dressed up as this, dressed up in women's clothing and all this shit. And then he gets murdered, and then Glenda has to flee, in the process leaving behind Glen's ID. And so Glen, he goes back to his apartment and gets everything. He has this, stack of cash that he can, support him, while he's on the run, and then he leaves, goes on the run, and he's trying to get from Florida to California. And so, we kind of follow him as he's trying to get to California, and he has incidences, that continually threaten to expose himself, as, he has incidences that threatened to expose his identity as a supposed murderer, because the newspaper prints his picture, so everyone knows what he looks like and that he's wanted for murder. It kind of is has some random ass fucking plot lines, in which one of them is he ends up buying this carnival. And so he has this carnival, I guess, to try to hide his identity. It also introduces some of the carnival sideshows, I guess, which involves the half man, half woman. And so she kind of, she figures out that Glen is a transvestite, because Glen, it's shown throughout the book, he keeps accidentally letting Glenda slip out. And so this woman, I can't remember her name. She's the half man, half woman. She kind of figures him out. And it's also implied that the tattoo lady is also, I'm assuming, a transvestite, because it talks about how obviously he has male genitalia. If you don't know already, this is literally, this was written for the shock value. And so he goes and buys this carnival, and he has to deal with these two corrupt cops, which I think is probably the truest, like, fucking, most realistic aspect of the book. There's these two cops that are corrupt as shit. You know, they continually try to squeeze Glen for money. And, then he eventually ends up, you know, by the end of the book, he's not caught yet, but like I said, by the end of the book, the syndicate sends another transvestite after him to kill him, or Glenda. So it's kind of like completely like, not necessarily all over the place, but there are some like plot lines that were kind of fucking random. One thing I will say about this book, it has terrible representation for both, or it treats both men and women terribly, in that women, you know, especially when it comes to Glenda, my god, she was so fucking sexualized in this book. You know, it continued to emphasize how attractive she was, and it continued, like, emphasized her, well, she doesn't have breasts, but, you know, like falsies, and then also the panties, and it was just very sexualized. They also have this prostitute, because she's one of the only fucking actual well-developed, or I wouldn't say well-developed, she's the only fucking woman we actually get anything about in this book, is a prostitute. And with the fucking cops, we get this really uncomfortable scene in which they threaten to put, you know, send her back to this farm because she's a prostitute, where she is gonna be gang bang. You know, it references a gang bang, so obviously you know what it is, and it was so fucking uncomfortable. And the treatment of her was terrible by these two characters. And so they fucking treat the women terribly in this book. They treat, you know, there is homophobia in that. These two cops reference the prostitute being sent to this like farm where the matron there is a lesbian, and so the prostitute is very uncomfortable when they think that when he comes forward about because he hires her to like at first she thinks he wants to have sex, but then he just wants her clothing, and it makes her uncomfortable because of her experience with this lesbian at this farm. And so obviously homophobia and the fact that they have terrible representation when it comes to lesbians in this book. Also, the men are fucking pigs in this book. Because the only two real main characters when it comes to the male men are the fucking cops. And they're literally terrible pigs. And to be honest, all the like fucking other men in this book that are referenced, especially when it comes to Glenda, are pigs. They continually talk about how, oh, she's so fucking attractive, I want to fuck her. And it even continually references these men who are married, who would fucking talk about how they have these women, these wives at home, and how they want to go home and fuck the wives because they want to actually fuck Glenda. And so it is terrible, portrayals of men as well. Obviously, I know this is supposed to be like this really fucking Pulp Fiction shocker bullshit because, you know, I read the Wikipedia article about Glenda and Glenda, and it references books and how it kind of tried to profit off of the shock value of transvestism and all that. But still, it's a terrible fucking book when it comes to representation of men, women, homosexuality, prostitutes, you name it. So yeah, I mean, I guess if you ever you're curious about that, I guess a lot of triggers, warnings in this, and for the book. But another thing I felt was kind of odd is that, it felt like Glen and Glenda were like, it felt like Glen had multiple personality disorder, because it continually talked about how Glenda was slipping through, and it continually just seemed like they were two completely different personalities from each other. It was kind of odd, but anyways. So those were pretty much my thoughts on the book. I mean, I won't say it was terribly written, because I think it was fairly well written for what it was. It's a pulp fiction shock value book. So I guess that's my thoughts on the book. Terrible, representation when it comes to a lot of minority groups, to be honest. Terrible representation when it came to men, women, homosexuals, prostitutes. Well, I mean, Rose, that's the name of the prostitute. She's actually a pretty nice person, but treated terribly in this book. The only solace I got out of this book was the 2 pig cops died by the end of the book. So that was the only good thing that happened, I feel, in this book. So yeah, so that was my review of this book. It's obviously a shock value book. It's not a real good book. So yeah, so that was my review of Killer and Drag. That was it. I'm not sure if I'm going to be reading the second book, because there is a second book. It's called Death by Transvestites? Death of a Transvestite, I think that's it, okay. By Ed Woods, not actual Ed Woods. I think it's kind of have to send it back to the library, and I don't want to buy this book, so there might be a gap between this review and the next review if I do end up bringing that book, because I just have to get it back from the library. So that's my review of Killer and Drag by Ed Wood. So if you did like this video, give it a like, subscribe to get notifications about all the videos I'll be doing. And you guys have a nice night, stay safe out there, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.